Hello, YouTubers. Welcome to Level-Headed News. I am your host, Brenda. And this is the second time that I have tried to record this. YouTube messed up the audio the first time around, so we're going to do it again for you. This one I'm calling Miscellaneous Current Events. And I've got, it looks like about 8 articles here that I'm going to bring to you that's a mishmash of different things that I thought was interesting enough to bring to the table. First one is off of space.com. It says Russia launches space cargo ship, but its fate is unclear. This was updated at 1 p.m. Eastern Time yesterday afternoon. It says the Russian space agency Roscosmos has confirmed the loss of the Progress 65 spacecraft, which burned up in the atmosphere after an anomaly. And it's trying to bring some information here, which we're going to shut that down so I don't run that competition. Okay. Which burned up in the atmosphere after an anomaly occurred during third stage separation and the rocket booster. Remaining debris from the incinerated spacecraft fell over the Tuva Republic in South Siberia. And there is a link where you can read more about the full story if you want to pull this up. All of these URLs are in the description of the video for your perusal. The article goes on to say Russia's space agency, Roscosmos, launched a new cargo ship to the International Space Station today, December the 1st, which was, of course, yesterday. But the fate of the robotic supply ship is unclear after issues cropped up during its trip into space. The unmanned Progress 65 spacecraft blasted off atop a Russian Soyuz U rocket at 9:51 a.m. Eastern Time from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan on a mission to deliver more than 2.5 tons of food, equipment, and other supplies to the space station. It was expected to arrive at the space station on Saturday, December the 3rd. But while the initial moments of the flight went as planned, flight controllers at Russia Mission Control Center near Moscow detected ratty telemetry as the Soyuz booster's third stage was firing. Today's launch started off seemingly smooth and flawless. During a live webcast of the launch, NASA spokesman Rob Navias of the Johnson Space Center in Houston announced that all vehicle parameters were reported performing perfectly about 2 minutes after liftoff. Nearly 7 minutes later, the spacecraft achieved telemetry orbit insertion. But as the Progress 65 was entering Earth's orbit, mission controllers began to experience what Navias called ratty telemetry data during the end of the third stage engine performance. At first, it was unclear whether the third stage engines had shut down and separated from the spacecraft. Third stage separation may have happened earlier than planned, Navias said. Shortly thereafter, Navias announced the telemetry data received in bits and pieces indicated that the navigational antennas have deployed. However, the fate of the spacecraft's solar arrays limbo. Though telemetry data showed the solar panels were no longer stowed, whether they were successfully deployed remains uncertain. If the mission is able to carry on, the Progress spacecraft's journey to the orbiting laboratory should last about 2 days. On Saturday, Progress is scheduled to dock to the station at the Zvezda module at 11:43 a.m. Eastern Time. Russia's 3-module Progress spacecrafts have an appearance similar to that of the country's Soyuz crew capsule, but instead of a crew capsule, the Progress has a module filled with propellant for the International Space Station. Progress spacecraft are the autonomous and can fly by themselves to the space station, as well as park at one of several docking ports on the outpost Russian modules. Cosmonauts inside the station can also take remote control of the Progress vehicles if needed. At the end of their mission, Progress vehicles are loaded with trash and unneeded items, undocked from the station, and intentionally burned up in Earth's atmosphere. Progress vehicles are part of a fleet of unmanned cargo ship that keeps space station crews stocked with supplies. That fleet includes Japan's H-2 transfer vehicle, as well as the Dragon spacecraft built by SpaceX and Cyrus supply ships built by Orbital ATK. This agency also flew 5 supply missions with its huge autonomous transfer vehicles before ending that program. The next article that I have for you, if I can get it to come up here, it's off of Natural News. Well, let's try this again. Goodness gracious, it's being difficult for me today. We'll have to reload that little baby. I think it's one that you will really enjoy. Trouble. Try that one more time. It's off of Natural News, and it's about Kellogg's boycott by Breitbart. And it says, boycott of Kellogg's, maker of processed junk food made with GMOs, expands to massive reader base of Breitbart.com. With massive reader base of 45 million fans, has just announced a massive boycott of all Kellogg's brands. It's not over GMOs, however. Breitbart.com doesn't focus on food, herbicides, or genetic engineering. Their focus is politics, and over the last 2 years, they've risen to become the #1 most credible political news publisher in America, while the lying mainstream media collapses in both credibility and readership. But Kellogg's corporist snowflakes, who are clearly behaving as intolerant, politically correct, safe space protestants, have decided that Breitbart.com doesn't reflect Kellogg's values. Kellogg's, in other words, has become genetically modified junk food for leftists. And that's freaking hilarious because it's progressives who are the most concerned about GMOs in the first place. Typically ignorant enough to eat Kellogg's products, you'd think it would be a certain subgroup of conservatives who tend to know nothing about the dangers of agricultural chemicals, glyphosate, genetic pollution, and GMOs, but nope. Now Kellogg's has decided it doesn't like conservative viewpoints such as supporting freedom, liberty, and the U.S. Constitution, so it's going to feed GMOs to clueless liberals instead. Hashtag dump Kellogg's already trending. 120,000 signed the Breitbart petition. In response to Breitbart News, one of the world's top news publishers has launched a hashtag dump Kellogg's petition and called for boycott of the ubiquitous food manufacturer. The petition is found at a link you can click right here in this article. So if you pull it up, there you go. It would be the second one down in the list that's right below the screen here in this video. It says, interesting, Natural News reader boycotted Kellogg's over a year ago for the company funneling money into state legislative efforts to defeat GMO labeling. Kellogg's was one of the many food giants that handed money over to the money laundering GMA, which is the Grocery Manufacturers of America, which knowingly and deliberately violate state laws in Washington to defeat a GMO labeling bill there. The Washington State Attorney General later fined the GMA $18 million for its willful violation of campaign finance laws. Kellogg's took part in all of that, making it an accomplice to criminal money laundering. Apparently, that sort of behavior reflects Kellogg's company values most of all. Kellogg's would rather do business with a criminal money laundering GMA than providing advertising support to a liberty-oriented, pro-American news publisher like Breitbart. That tells you a lot about the values of Kellogg's company, doesn't it? By pulling its ads from Breitbart, Kellogg's is engaging in an act of discrimination and intense prejudice, says Breitbart.com petition. Breitbart News is the largest platform for pro-family content anywhere on the internet. We advocate for traditional American values, perhaps most important among them is freedom of speech. For Kellogg's, an iconic American brand, to blacklist Breitbart News in order to placate left-wing totalitarians is a disgraceful act of cowardice. They insult our credibility. diverse staff and spit in the face of our 45 million highly engaged, highly perceptive, highly loyal readers, many of whom are Kellogg's customers. Boycotting mainstream American ideas is an act of discrimination and intense prejudice. If you serve Kellogg's products to your family, you're serving up bigotry at your breakfast table. With Kellogg's, you're also serving up a huge heap of GMOs, pesticides, herbicides, and other toxic agricultural chemicals found in numerous Kellogg's products. Yes, this is true, even with cashew branded products, which are positioned to make them falsely appear to be incredibly healthy, when in reality, they're just one more junk cereal product offered by a dishonest, intolerant, America-hating corporation rooting in delusional leftism. Now, both progressives and conservatives have good reason to boycott Kellogg's. The upshot of all this is that informed progressives are boycotting Kellogg's due to GMOs and collusion with GMAs, while informed conservatives are boycotting Kellogg's due to the Breitbart.com situation. Now, people on both sides of the political aisle have good reason to boycott Kellogg's. Which brings us all to the question, who then is still buying and eating Kellogg's products? Only the dumbest members of society who are totally clueless about everything. Kellogg's, in other words, has become breakfast cereal for the retards, and by that, I mean no offense to those who have suffered brain damage due to no fault of their own, such as children damaged by vaccines. Seriously, the next time you're in line at the grocery store and you see someone buying a bunch of Kellogg's products, just take a closer look at that person, if you dare, and try to guesstimate just how low their IQ is. You almost can't guess low enough. Some of Kellogg's brands to boycott include Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, Kellogg's Nutri-Grain, Pop-Tarts, Rice Krispies, Cheez-It, Cashy, Eggo, Frosted Mini Wheats, Cocoa Krispies, Morningstar Farms, Famous Amos, Kellogg's Corn Flakes, Kellogg's Honey Smack Cereal, Corn Pops, Mother's Cookies, Keebler Company, Smart Start, Fruit Loops, Kellogg's Raisin Bran, Low-Fat Granola, Fruit-Flavored Snacks, Apple Jacks, Cracklin' Oat Bran, Mueslex, Smart Start, S'mores, Kellogg's Raisin Brand, Crave, Crispix, All Brand, Apple Jacks, and Crunch Mania. The article that I have is off of foxnews.com, and it says school kids cook up $2 dose of the $750 a pill Daraprim. Remember Martin Shkreli, the hedge fund manager who last year founded Turning Pharmaceuticals, acquiring an essential anti-parasitic drug and quickly jacked up its price 55-fold from $13.50 to $750 a pill? Well, he's just been shown up by a group of high school chemistry students in Australia who produced a generic version of Turing's drug, Daraprim, for $2 a pill, reports the Sydney Morning Herald. Led by chemist Alice Williamson and motivated by a dose of Digest, a class of Sydney Grammar School students turned 17 grams of 2,4 chlorophyllin acetoneryl into 3.7 grams of primethymine. I'm not good with all these medical terminology, so bear with me. The active ingredient in Daraprim. If that's sold in the U.S. as Daraprim, it would cost about $100,000 because of the price hike, notes the Australian Broadcasting Corporation. The project was more about principle than anything else, says Williamson. I thought if we could show that students could make it in the lab with no real training, we could really show how ridiculous this price hike was and that there is no way it could be justified, she tells The Guardian. Shkreli has taken to Twitter to note his lack of enthusiasm. Almost any drug can be made at small scale for low price. Glad it makes you feel good, though. Also, don't hold your breath waiting for this cheaper alternative to show up in the U.S. Williamson says complex legal rules effectively make it impossible. We'd have to go through a whole new clinical trial because we'd have to compare the Sydney Grammar stuff with the officially sanctioned stuff, and Turning would have to give us the drug to allow those comparisons to be made. And it says this article originally appeared on Newser Take that, Martin Shrekley. School kids cook up a $2 dose. The next article that I have for you is off of foxnews.com, and it says 3 killed after truck crashes into an Iowa Walmart. A pickup truck rammed through the front door of a Walmart in Iowa Thursday morning, killing 3 people, police confirmed. The crash in Pella appeared to be an accident, not intentional, according to investigators. State police told Fox News that there was nothing suspicious about the crash. Investigators said that at least 2 people were hurt, including the truck driver. None of the people killed or injured were children, Patrol Sergeant Nathan Ludwig said. We're heartbroken by what appears to be a tragic accident, Walmart told WHO-TV. A photo posted by the Des Moines Register showed the truck stopped in the produce section with debris scattered across the floor. Crews evacuated the store after the crash. Fire trucks and ambulances were rushed to the scene. Pella is about 40 miles southeast of Des Moines. Off of WFAA.com news, and it says mysterious stickers placed on residents' mailboxes spur concern in Plano. And this is out of Texas. And the article reads, it's not the chore Carolyn Chaffee had on her list for Tuesday. Plano residents used a razor blade to scrape away the sticker that had been placed on her mailbox. She's not the only one in her Hunters Ridge neighborhood in Plano that has it. It's not like it's just happening on one street, said David Tilley with the department. We're getting multiple streets reporting. Tilley is talking about the mysterious yellow and black reflective sticker found on mailboxes. It's unsettling to think somebody would be tagging mailboxes, Chaffee said. For what purpose? Plano police are hoping for any leads. Tilley says the department was first notified of the sticker almost 2 weeks ago. One of the things we always look for is worst case scenario, Tilley said. Tilley says so far there's nothing that points these stickers into being for nefarious reasons. Tilley says one of the worst case scenarios here is that thieves may be targeting homes and placing tags using reflective stickers. Tilley says 23 stickers have been officially reported to the department, but also says there may be up to 60 mailboxes with stickers on them in the neighborhood. Number one, we want to know why these stickers are being placed on there, he said. And number two, we want to know who's doing it. Investigators checked. Tilley says it's not the United States Post Office and not the city of Plano. Police say if this is a service company or for some other innocent reason, please come forward. I'm thinking something bad's going to happen, said another neighbor who didn't want to be identified. Something really bad's going to happen. Plano police ask that you take the sticker off, then call the public information department at the Plano Police Department. One neighbor told News 8 that he'll do that and more. I'm well armed, he said. I'm well trained, so they better not try. Police hope with enough cooperation they can map out a trend, and if reasons are indeed nefarious, stop what most of us all fear this is. The next article is off of conservativetribune.com, and it says, breaking, Levi's bans guns from all stores. The company with a history of supplying jeans to the hardest working people in America is telling you to check your gun at the door. In an open letter to Levi's customers on Wednesday, CEO Chip Bergh has asked that law-abiding gun owners refrain from carrying their weapons into a store, as reported by Fortune. His rationale? You don't need a gun to try on a pair of jeans. Bergh went on to cite the proximity of Levi's stores in Paris, Nice, Orlando, and the company's European headquarters in Brussels to recent terror attacks. Let's break this down. Bergh's attempt to link lawful gun owners to terrorist attacks doesn't hold water. Both the Paris and Orlando attacks took place in gun-free zones, meaning law-abiding citizens who might have been able to respond were disarmed, according to Breitbart. In the Nice, France attack, 84 people were killed by a terrorist who ran over them with a large truck, not a gun, a box with wheels. In Brussels, the terrorists chose bombs. The fact that violence happens randomly and senselessly is the very reason that we have an armed citizenry. In a study of nearly 5,000 police reports over an 8-year period, researchers for the Cato Institute conclude that the mere presence of an armed citizen thwarted countless crimes each year. The study also highlighted the reluctance of the media to report the successful armed citizens in crime prevention. Time and time again, we've learned that a good guy with a gun is more effective than a nice guy without one. The next article I have for you is off of OregonLive.com. It says U.S. Marshals explain why they grabbed Emmett Bundy's lawyer. And there is video in this if you'd like to pull it up and take a look at it. It says a judge in Washington has been assigned to handle the citation against Emmett Bundy's lawyer, Marcus Mumford, who was accused of failing to follow a federal officer's direction at the end of the Oregon standoff conspiracy trial. Moments after the jury returned the not guilty verdict for Bundy and 6 co-defendants on October 27th, the occupation of the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge, Mumford stood before the U.S. District Judge Anna J. Brown and argued that his client should be released from custody immediately. When Mumford continued to yell and argue after the judge told him that the Nevada had an order to hold Bundy, 6 to 7 U.S. Marshals slowly moved in and surrounded Mumford at his defense table. The judge directed them to move back, but moments later, the Marshals grabbed Mumford, tackled him, and stunned him with a taser gun. In a probable cause statement filed Tuesday in U.S. District Court in Portland, the Marshals give their explanation as to why they took the actions they did, though their statement makes no mention that a marshal used a stun gun on Mumford. Several people inside the courtroom observed the use of the stun gun, and the U.S. Marshal Service acknowledged it on the night of the incident that it had occurred. According to an account written by Colin M. Fawcett of the U.S. Marshal Service, Mumford grew increasingly agitated after learning that Bundy wouldn't be released from custody. As marshals moved forward to escort Bundy out of the courtroom, Mumford positioned his body so as to block the marshals from taking Bundy into custody and began yelling in protest, Fawcett wrote. Deputy U.S. Marshal Eric Helsing instructed Mumford to lower his voice and stand down, which Mumford didn't do, Fawcett wrote. Mumford became even more agitated, flailing his arms and raising his voice even louder. So 2 other deputy marshals moved in to escort Mumford out of the courtroom, the statement said. Then, according to Fawcett, Mumford took a particular stance that, in Fawcett's experience as a police officer and a combat veteran, signaled that the attorney was preparing for combative and physical altercation. Fawcett wrote that Mumford lowered his body, widened his stance, and brought his shoulders up toward his head. These physical responses are pre-assault indicators consistent with an individual preparing for a combative physical altercation, he wrote. 2 other deputies moved to grab Mumford's upper arms using a standard law enforcement grasp, but Mumford jerked his arms free. Mumford then squared his body off with a deputy and raised his clenched fist in what appeared to be a boxer's stance, Fawcett wrote. There's also no mention of the deputy marshals tackling Mumford, who is 5 foot 6 inches tall, according to the citation. Instead, the summary simply states that a brief struggle ensued and that Mumford was taken into custody. Mumford, who lives in Salt Lake City, Utah, was cited for failing to comply with the lawful directives of federal police officers and disrupting official government duties. After he was released from custody, he and other lawyers who were present decried the force used against him in the courtroom. Mumford said the actions of the marshals were uncalled for. All I was asking for was papers. Just show me you have the authority to take Mr. Bundy into custody, Mumford said. On Tuesday night, Mumford said the marshals now are just making up facts. He said the Marshals Service admitted to his staff after he was taken into custody on October the 27th that they didn't have any custody orders for Bundy. Something is wrong with the sense of justice here, Mumford said, and now they're just making up facts that they say is based on their training and experience to justify their actions in court that day. Here's an idea. How about the marshals spend more time using their training and experience to see if they can actually have the custody order they claim to have that day? And when they don't have the authorization to keep an acquitted and innocent man in custody, why not just admit that and release the man? Bundy has since been transferred to federal custody in Nevada, where he faces prosecution stemming from an April 2014 armed standoff with federal agents over cattle grazing rights outside his father, Cliven Bundy's ranch near Bunkerville, Nevada. Chief Judge Sidney Ryan Thomas of the Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals has designated the U.S. Senior District Judge John Kogenauer of the Western District of Washington to handle the citation case against Mumford, according to the federal court's docket. Mumford is scheduled to appear in federal court in Portland on the citation on January the 6th. The next article and final article that I have in this edition is off of, and it says, finally, check out the new website that calls out radical liberal professors. A newly launched website asks college students to expose professors who advance leftist propaganda in the classrooms. The site, Professor Watchlist, launched this month by the nonprofit organization Turning Point USA, already lists hundreds of professors in an effort to expose and document college professors who discriminate against conservative students and advance leftist propaganda in the classroom. Documenting incidents reported by other news organizations, the site promises to only publish profiles on incidents that have already been reported somewhere else. The project, Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk wrote, "It's no secret that some of America's college professors are totally out of line. Every day I hear stories about professors who attack and target conservatives, promote liberal propaganda, and use their position of power to advance liberal agendas in their classrooms. Turning Point USA is saying enough is enough, and it's time we expose these professors." The site features professors like Dr. Charles Angeletti, who required students to recite a pledge that describes a racist, sexist, homophobic America, and Dr. Brittany Cooper, who blamed white racism for Brexit. Dr. Muriel Miller-Young of the University of California, Santa Barbara, was sentenced to 3 years probation after violently attacking a 16-year-old pro-life activist on campus. She was convicted of assault, theft, and destruction of property, but the University of Santa Barbara never fired her. The site noted, "What we are seeing with this site is kind of normalizing of prosecuting professors, shaming professors, defaming professors." Kent State professor Julio Cesar Pino told the New York Times Pino was listed on the site for being investigated by the FBI for connections to ISIS, which Pino denies. By exposing liberal ideology, the site hopes to help conservative students combat leftist professors. The New York Times, unsurprisingly, noted that some criticized the watch list as a threat to academic freedom and could be used to harass professors. Twitter users launched parodies under hashtag TrollProf watchlist, registering Indiana Jones, Professor Plum of Clue University, and Gilderoy Lockhart from Harry Potter's Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. And you can read those tweets in this article if you care to. It says, criticism and parodies aside, Turning Point USA promises to continue to promote free speech, whatever the source. TPUSA will continue to fight for free speech and the right for professors to say whatever they wish, the website states. However, students, parents, and alumni deserve to know the specific incidents and the names of the professors that advance a radical agenda in lecture halls. If you like what we do here, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, share it around, and we'll see you on the next episode.